All right, let's go across to the BJP spokesperson now, GVL Narasimha. GVL, before the break, we were talking about the Rafale deal, and there were two questions. Why did this deal change from 126 to 36? And what about François Hollande's statement that they had no choice about Reliance? And remember, we would like to tell our viewers that the Indian Air Force chief also a few days back had said that in 2014-15, they had reached a dead end, and the move to go in for 36 fighter jets was a bold one. But moving ahead, the question for you, GVL, is what about what François Hollande said, and why did this deal change from 126 to 36 on 10th April 2015?
No, Parikshit, the Hollande statement, he has himself, in a subsequent interview to the AFP, he said it was for Dassault to comment on this. He was right. Possibly the French government had no say in this. It was a commercial decision to be made by Dassault company. Therefore, I think for him, and why was Hall not in place before 2014? Can any of them, all the experts on the panel or the Congress spokesman, can they tell us? Dassault was not willing to guarantee the planes that were to be made by Hall.
I will answer that.
They said, we will not give you any kind of guarantee on the product developed by Hall. So otherwise there would have been no difficulty. Hall would have been on board. It was Dassault's unwillingness to really accept a Hall and guarantee their production that really led to the parting of ways. Otherwise, why was this deal not concluded with Hall when the Congress was in power? Robert Vadra would have made his commission then itself.
Why was
the entire worry for the Congress is now that Robert Vadra and his friends are not getting their brokerage?
Why is there so much of resistance? Why is there so much of resistance to explain what happened on 10th April 2015? And I think Sanjay wants to come in now.
I think, what do you want to do? You have the government of India, Ministry of Defence putting out several statements. You have had the chief of the Air Force commenting on this. You have had press conferences from this. What more do you want? And now Supreme Court has asked for some information. They rejected this petition for a disclosure of price and technical.
I think Kapil Kak, Sanjay, before getting you in, Kapil Kak wants to respond to GVL,
which will be given to the court.
Okay.
No, I think the point was raised as to how did we reach the dead end. We need to understand the time scales. 2007 tenders was floated, and 2012 Dassault was made the L1 lowest bidder for the Rafale. 5 years. Now, after that, there was only a year and a half, in fact less, before the new government was to come in. So to expect that the UPA too should have resolved all these issues, I think is less than ingenuous. More important point is, and this is what the government has to answer, why didn't they follow up that deal by, of course, there was I think GVN has a good point there, because for the Air Force to lay out that Dassault must give the quality assurance for aircraft manufactured by HAL, I think it was a wrong step. Because HAL have always had a problem with quality control, delivery schedules and everything else. That could have been resolved very easily by the government saying, no, we will not insist on Dassault doing it. On the man hours, I think again Dassault was not quite right, because they well knew that the man hours of HAL would be much more than Dassault's.
Okay.
So therefore, I think it was incumbent on the government to put Dassault's feet to fire on an agreement they have signed as per the request for proposal, and move on. Even if the delay was one more year, it wouldn't have happened. But to reduce the numbers from 126 to 36, I think in national security terms was an extremely
because we have been wanting 126 fighter jets since 2001.
We not want them. Air Force wants them now.
Yeah, and R.K. Sood, do you agree that there were issues with HAL?
Yes.
The contract as it stood could not have gone ahead with HAL in 2015 when Prime Minister Modi went to Paris. Because reservations have been expressed about
I don't agree with that.
Capabilities.
No, I want to come in for 1 second. The day prior to Prime Minister's visit to Paris for this summit with Hollande, Foreign Secretary Jaishankar said detailed discussion. Please listen to this.
It has to happen. It doesn't happen between the leaders.
No, detailed discussions are going on. Technical deliberations are on between the French company, the HAL, which is involved.
I'll get in, Rakesh.
One day before the HAL is involved.
We're running out of time. Rakesh, come in.
Well, yes. All I'm saying is that very clearly there were some issues that remained to be ironed out between HAL, the Ministry of Defense, and DASO. However, the fact that instead of putting in effort to iron them out, as Air Marshal Kak has pointed out, which was the attempt even a day earlier to the visit, instead of that, we have this announcement which took everybody by surprise, including the Defense Minister, who was on television thereafter to say, well, this must have been an outcome of discussions at the highest level, and therefore I will support it. Second point, I think it is quite understandable that HAL, while it has obviously much more experience than the Reliance subsidiary, but HAL also has a history of delays and cost overruns. For example, the Sukhoi 30, you know, we buy it from, when we bought it from the Russians quote a price of 330 crores, and you would think that if it was being made in India, it would be cheaper. On the contrary, HAL charges the Indian Air Force 415 crores for the same Sukhoi. So the same kind of a thing has happened with the Tejas Mark 1. It was started out as a 135 crore aircraft and is today more than 268 crores. So there are certain problems in fact where HAL is concerned. And the last point I want to make is that the government, after having taken the decision to do 36 aircraft, has actually come back and in July this year issued an RFP for 110 aircraft, for which the terms are almost identical to what the terms were in 2007. So once again we are back to the same 110 aircraft, and meanwhile, instead of 42 squadrons which the Indian Air Force will have, today we are down to 32, and we may even go down to 26 or 27.
All right,
so
I'll get in Sanjay Jha now. The question actually what
critical concern
Rakesh Sood is asking is for GVL, but I'll get in Sanjay Jha. He's been waiting for some time. Sanjay Jha, in the backdrop of these state puts, when there are doubts about the capability of HAL, when you have the government putting on record that this would have led to a cost increase in the days, weeks and years to come, can you really question this decision? And legally, Sanjay Jha, can you question this decision of Reliance being awarded this contract? If this was a private commercial decision, how much can you really question this?
Parikshit, let me tell you 2 points here very quickly. First, you know, anybody who's aware of government purchases knows it goes through a very stringent scrutiny. Now you have a request for proposal. Now, if the earlier government, by the way, it is not the government, it is the former Indian Air Force chiefs. We are talking about head honchos who take care of India's air security. If 4 or 5 of them were involved in various stages of the transaction, and they felt you required 7 squadrons, how does Prime Minister Narendra Modi unilaterally land up in Paris and change the terms of the contract? I mean, that's the first point. Where is the transparency? Did he follow the defense procurement policy? Was the Cabinet Committee on Security in board? I mean, you know that Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar was buying fish pomfret in the Panji market. I mean, there are some glaring. I mean, if you ask me, these are manifestations of extreme authoritarian decision making, and they must have consequences here. As far as Reliance is concerned, let me tell you this: Reliance's issue is very intriguing because the company is set up 2 weeks before Mr. Modi lands up with an equity capital of 5 lakhs, and this is a company which is bleeding in India. I'm telling you, I've been an investment banker. I can tell you the company is one of the willful defaulters in the House of Debt list. And this company ends up getting a contract which is life cycle business is 1,30,000 crores. And you and I haven't even talked about the price of the aircraft going up by 300%.
One final question to GVL.
I mean, there are too many,
I guess it's all now boiling down to transparency. We've done several debates. It all boils down to what happened on 10th April 2015. There was a need for 126 fighter jets since 2001. Why did we not push the pedal? There is this question about what happened that day, what changed, because till about 8th of April 2015, the deal was for 126 fighters.
No, but you see, in the deal that was being negotiated earlier was for 18 planes to be purchased off the shelf, because I think manufacturing in India would take a long time. So the government increased it to 36. Obviously, the IAF must have been in the loop. These are decisions which are not made by the government, only the political leadership without consultation with the defense establishment. For anyone to think so or say so would be a joke. So therefore, I'm sure there must have been discussions within the setup, and they must have realized that getting 36 off the shelf will give us such an ability to fight the enemy.
Mr. Rao, one question. But does the emergency fulfillment take 7 years for fulfillment?
No, we've run out of time.
What are you talking about? 7 years for fulfillment of an emergency purchase?
I think you should address this question to the Congress party. That question should be addressed to the Congress.
At that level. So CCS clearance was not taken until 2 days before the deal was changed. The deal was for 126 fighters, and that's what everyone in the establishment really knew
I think you should.
We're going to end there, but thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the debate.